Hey guys, today we're going to talk about an underway checklist. I'm going to go through what I use and give you some tips. See you on the inside. I have a list of many items that I check not every time I get underway. It's based on how far I'm going, where I'm going, but this is comprehensive. This is kind of my whole list. So you can kind of take it with a grain of salt. You know, if you're going for a 3-mile tour down the road, you probably don't want to do some of this stuff. But it's up to you. But at least you are aware of it. So this is alphabetical, and it just goes by my section of the boat. And so we start off with A. We happen to start off with the AC system. Check air conditioner flow is okay. Again, you know, if you don't have an air conditioner, don't worry about it. But if you have an air conditioner and you use it a lot, and maybe you want to use it while you're underway, or you want to use it at your destination, make sure it's working. Bilge pumps. Always check your bilge pumps. They keep you afloat if you have water problems. So what I do is I'll turn my bilge pump on and I'll check my float switch to make sure it's operating correctly. One thing I haven't done, which I need to start doing, I forgot about, is most boats have a manual bilge pump as well. It might be up in your cockpit, and it's just a little handle, and you're supposed to crank it, and it's supposed to be extra in case your automatic one, electric one fails. And you should probably check that every once in a while, and I need to start doing that. So I'm going to add that to my list. Next thing I have are the cabins. So close hatches, close windows, close vents. You know, based on if it's raining or if you're expecting wet weather or if you're expecting rough seas, it's easier to close them now than when it's really bouncy out there and you have to try to balance on a bed or something like that to try to close the hatches and you're getting drenched. So do it now. The cabin again, secure punching bag. I don't have a punching bag on here right now, but if you have a punching bag on your boat, secure it. Secure all your items below. Anything that's going to move around or crash or break, make sure it's not going to fly around off the boat, because you can get some, you know, pretty erratic movements on a sailboat, especially, maybe a powerboat too. So things break. So if you secure them properly in cabinets or lash them down, then they probably won't break, and also you won't get hit by things, flying things, and step on things. So it's much safer to have everything stowed. If you have bikes, secure your bikes. Again, anything that can move around, that you can stow it. I take out my cockpit cushions. So I take out my cockpit cushions. Make yourself comfortable because you're going to be on maybe a long trip. Install jack lines. So if we're going offshore, I have jack lines that I run from the bow to the stern, either side of the boat. And when we're offshore, we clip in. It's mandatory at night for us to clip in. And also, if I have to go forward on the boat, I'll clip in. So that's what those are for. So jack lines are lines. They can be really anything, but you can buy them at a marine store too. Just look for jack lines. And they're designed so that they run the length of the boat. And then if you have a harness, typically the sailing, the PFDs that we wear, they have clips you can harness, and it has like a little clip on it. So you can actually clip into that jack line. So the idea is that you don't get thrown off the boat or fall off the boat. It's a hell of a lot easier to stay on a boat than get back off on a boat once you've gone in the water. So you don't want to ever go in the water. So stay on the boat. That helps with the jack lines. Check your windlass. Make sure it's working. Secure your anchor. I've been on a boat with an experienced captain, years and years of experience, and he didn't like to secure his anchor. And we were putting along. I was on a training mission with him. And we hear this noise. It's like, oh my God, it's the anchor. The anchor deployed while we were underway. And he pressed a button or something accidentally. Don't know what it was, but secure the anchor. If you come into an anchorage, it's easy just to go up on the bow a little bit before you get to your anchorage and unsecure the anchor and get it all ready to go. But when you're underway, I highly recommend you secure that anchor with a line or something. Periodically test your emergency tiller. Make sure you have an emergency tiller. That is if your steering gear breaks. On our boat, we have 2 steering wheels, and they're independently hooked up to the rudder, which is kind of cool. So if one breaks, the other should work. But I also have an emergency tiller. If you have an outboard on a dinghy or something like that, secure the outboard. Bring it up, put it up on a railing, secure your dinghy. Maybe it's on davits. Maybe you need to blow it, deflate it and put it below. Maybe you need to put it on the deck, but take care of that before you go and make sure it's, locked down. Visually inspect your deck for tripping hazards, anything, that you might have left on the deck. What I do is, it's later. I'll cover it right now. Since we're talking about the deck, I'll go through and I'll check all my turnbuckles. I'll look at my stainless steel wires. I'll look at any connection points. Just make sure everything looks right, Use your spidey boaty sense, if you see cracks or something weird that you don't notice. And especially if you do this every single time, because then you just kind of get an awareness, and if something's not quite right, it'll sort of you'll be able to key on it easier than if you just do it once in a while. So the more familiar you are with your boat, your systems, your running gear, your standing rigging, your running rigging, all those things, you're going to be more able to pick out if there are problems, because you'll know what it looks like when they're in good shape. So look at your running gear, look at your standing rigging, anything on the bow, anything on the deck. Your stanchions, your lifelines, make sure those are in good shape. Inspect your batteries. Make sure your batteries are up to the voltage that they're supposed to be. Make sure that your batteries are charging, either by your alternator on your engine, so start your engine, or maybe they need to be charged through your generator. So make sure either way that your batteries are where you expect them to be and they're charging properly. Also look at your battery compartments and your connections. We had an instance a while ago. I had a water leak in my hot water tank. One of the fittings was leaking. Very slow drip leak. Didn't even notice it. But when I opened up one of my compartments, one of my batteries, it was almost full with water. Luckily, I noticed it before the water had gotten to my post and shorted out my battery. That could have been a fire or just destroyed the battery. So always check things like that. So just check your battery compartments. Check compartments for water. Like I check all my compartments for water. I start from the bow of the boat. I look at my where my windlass is. I look underneath my berth where I have anywhere I have through hull fittings. I'll just kind of take a look at them and decide whether I want them open or closed. Like an air conditioning unit, I probably won't use offshore, so typically I'll close them, because in the middle of the night, if you're on watch and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you have a water problem, that's one less place that that your seacock is closed. So I check there. I check my bilge, of course, and I check it when I do my bilge pump, but I make sure there's no water in there. Look at your toilets, because when you're going along nice and perpendicular to the water, you're not going to have any water going into either your toilet or into your sinks. But when you heel over, you have water pressure, and those outlets are now underwater, so water can come up. Sure, most of them, they should have vented loops where that's not supposed to happen, but it happens. It happens on this boat. I've had water come up and go into the sink. So I'll close the sinks I'm not using, or I'll look to see what tack I'm going to be on, and I'll close that one. Same thing with the toilet, I've noticed. The toilet will do the same thing. It'll fill with water, yeah. And overflow eventually if you don't check it. Now we're on to the electronics section. So check if you're an AIS, or you have a VHF, or you have your chart plotter. Do all your chart work and your navigation stuff up front. Know where you're going, the times you expect to be there, when you think you're going to leave. Look at the weather along the way. If it's a couple days, look at the weather across a couple days. Look at a number of different weather models. Don't rely on one. There's predict wind, there's windy. There's actually two different versions of windy. Also look at NOAA weather forecasts, because they actually have a human set of eyes on it and can give you a human perspective, not just you trying to interpret a bunch of models, computer models. That can be very useful. Plot out your course where you think you're going to be going. Then when you do that, look all along your course and see if there are rocks or obstacles or hazards or whatever, buoys, and zoom in. So like if you're using electronic charts, it bugs the heck out of me, because some of these charts, if you don't zoom in really, really far, you can't see things like buoys. I almost hit a buoy, which was really stupid on my part. In Florida, well, it wasn't even a buoy. It was a tower and it was over in Fort Lauderdale. They have what they call light towers where the big ships come in. So the big ships will line these towers up, and then that shows them how they're going to go into the channel. And it was on the chart, but I didn't see it. And I was out on a watch. It was dark, not pitch black, but it was getting dark. And I noticed it. I was like, wow, and we got closer than what I wanted to. So be very diligent about checking your charts for things. And then, adjust your charts appropriately. Look at the tides. Look at the tides from, when you're leaving. Look at currents when you're out on the water to get an idea of what that's going to do to your speed, and how it's going to slow you down or speed you up. Look at where you're going. So if you're coming into inlets, you always have to pay attention to inlets, because if there's wind going against the current going against the current coming out, that can mean big waves and just choppy water, and so just be aware of it anyway. Maybe you need to go into your location has to be high tide, or so make sure you know that. Make sure you know those things. Look at the moon. See if the moon's going to be out at night. That's also handy, nice to know. Just because you're going to know if you have light or not, if it's going to be pitch black. Yeah. So look at the moon. It just gives you an idea whether you could expect pitch black for all night long, or you can have a nice moon that can light your way a little bit, which is kind of pleasant. Going on with electronics, so check your VHF, check your autopilot. If you have an autopilot, just put it on and maybe put a couple coordinates in it and just see if it makes that little noise, zee, 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 kind of thing, instead of a grinding noise. Just again, make sure that it sounds the way it normally sounds. Radar, check your radar. I run my radar pretty much even in the day and night, but check your radar and make sure it's working properly, what you expect. Check your depth, make sure your depth is working. Check your instruments, your wind instruments, make sure those are working too. Are they giving you what they want you to, you can check your direction and stuff and courses on probably have compasses. Most boats still have real compasses. Use your compasses. If you have iPads or something else, make sure they're working. Lights, this really kind of electrical, but make sure your navigation lights are working. Check them. Turn them on. Turn on your red. Make sure you have red and green and white in the back. Also check your steaming light, if you're which is also called a masthead light. Make sure that's working. It's really important for people to see you out there. Make sure your batteries are charged for any lights that you might have. Check your fuel. Make sure you have enough fuel to get to where you want to go. I try to, if I can, always top off my fuel before I'm going to go on a longer distance. Not always, but I try to do that. But know how much fuel you have, how much you burn at certain RPMs. Look at your gauges. Make sure they're accurate. Mine aren't the greatest, but I know that. So I can adjust my thinking for when I see my dial doing what it's going to do. Like I know that I'm really close to having no fuel when my gauge gets down to about a quarter. It just doesn't go all the way down. But, and every boat's different. Just know that. If you're out of the water, if you're still in the water, check your stuffing box. Stuffing box is kind of an old term. I think a lot of boats don't really have stuffing boxes anymore, but I still call it a stuffing box. So it's the place where your propeller shaft comes into your boat, and historically they used to put flax in there with wax and things like that. And what it would do is it would keep the water out, but it would allow the prop to spin in just a little bit of water so it wouldn't overheat the prop. Not the prop, the shaft. Now I've got a dripless stuffing box on here. I forget who makes it, but check those. Make sure those are working properly. Make sure they're not leaking. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Check your engine, going to the engine next. Check your engine coolant. Make sure it's where it should be. Check your oil. Check your belts on your engine. Make sure they're tight and they're where they're supposed to be. You can kind of know. Like I said, if you check it all the time, you'll get an idea like, oh wow, this doesn't feel right. This feels a little not as tight as it usually does. So then you know. Make sure your raw water is open and available to your engine. Check your filter. I've done that too. When we first got the boat, I forgot to have the raw water open to my engine, and we're putting along, nice day, and beep. It's like, oh crap, what's that? I didn't even know what the noise was at the time. Then I looked at my gauges. Oh wow, the engine temperature was way up. I knew instantly. I ran down, opened it up, kept the engine going because I wanted to cool down the engine with the water. Don't shut your engine off right away because then the heat, if it happens to you, because the heat will just stay in the engine. But anyway, so yeah, check, try to check those things. If you have a bow thruster, make sure it works. Check it. Beep, beep, both sides. They can really help you a lot. Look over your engine, look underneath your engine, see if there's any fluids or anything that are odd. Visually inspect your engine fuel filters, one that Raycors or that type of thing. The ones that filter out the fuel that comes from your tanks before they get to your engine. They'll have fuel separators and they'll have little, they'll catch particulates and stuff like that. Make sure those look clear. Make sure there's no layer of water on the bottom. If there does, drain it out. Check your fridge temperature. If you're going to be away and you have lots of food, you don't want it to foil. Make sure it's spoiled. Make sure it's working properly. Generator. Everything I mentioned on the engine, check for your generator. You have belt tension. You can check the oil. You can check the antifreeze. You can, if you're going to be using it, make sure the through hull is open so you get water going through it. Review things like coastal pilots or cruising guides, things like that if you're going to places that you're not familiar with. Those can be very useful. You can find them online too. Create an underway log. I have a log I use all the time, and that's where I'll document where I'm going, the speed at which I think I'm going to be moving, how long I'm going to get there, all those different variables I was talking about before, the tides if they're important to me. So I can just later, if I need to, just look at my log and say, oh, it's already written down. I don't have to go try to research it again. Very handy. And I also keep track of our underway progress. Kind of off topic a little bit, but when you're out there, I also document our GPS location, things like that. So have charts on your boat. I think you should still have charts on your boat. I have paper charts for any location I'm going to be on my boat, and I use them. If I'm going to be in a particular location, I open up the chart. So it's not a full chart. It's the MapTech has chart books, and other companies have chart books, and they work good. So you have it open to where you are, and okay, this is where I'm going to be, and this is where I'm going, and along the way I'll plot my location on the chart. If I lose my electronics, something happens, I have my location. I also record my location in my logbook for the same reason. If I have to call the Coast Guard, I have to call somebody for help or something. Check your life vests. Make sure you have enough life. Well, that's getting into safety equipment, but make sure all your safety equipment is up to date. All your Coast Guard and whatever state you're in, make sure that's all up to date. I could go through the whole list, but I'm not going to. That would be a separate video. Along the same lines of safety equipment is file a float plan. And I don't mean file it with the Coast Guard, because the Coast Guard doesn't want it. They don't want to see it unless there's actually a need for them to use it. Like if you don't show up at where you think you're going to be showing up, or you're missing at sea. So what you want to do is you want to create a float plan with someone that you, a loved one, someone, and tell them, where you're going to be, what your approximate route is, when they can expect you, things like information about the boat, the hull, the color, the length, your MMIS number, things like that. So if there actually is an instance where you have problems offshore and they call the Coast Guard can find you more easily. Along those same lines of safety, if you have an EPIRB, make sure it works. Every couple years, if you have an EPIRB and it's registered, you'll get an email or a letter in the mail that says it needs to be rechecked. So make sure it's registered, because if you have an EPIRB and it's not registered, it doesn't do you diddly, because they don't know who you are or what your boat is. So register your EPIRBs and check them. Empty your holding tanks or look at your holding tanks, know what's in there. Check propane tanks. Maybe you're going to go on a long trip and you need lots of propane. Make sure that you know what you have. Maybe you want to shut them off while you're underway. You don't want to use them. That's possible too. If you have a dinghy, secure your dinghy. Put it up on, maybe I said this, I don't know. Put it up on the deck or put it in your davits. Maybe take your engine off and secure it. If you like food, I said with the refrigerators. Make sure you have enough. You may want, if you're going, especially offshore, like overnight, a couple nights, it's nice to have a hot meal prepped for you in the refrigerator. So maybe prep some meals, because it's challenging when you're heeling over to make something in the galley. Even trying to microwave can be a challenge too, because things slide around in the microwave. But at least if you have a meal prepped and it's in the refrigerator, you can open it up and throw it in the microwave for a second, and you have a nice hot meal. It's really good. So, think about what you want to eat when you're offshore too, when you're going underway. Maybe you want some crackers and cheese, or maybe you want some wine or some beer, or
What?
some coconut water.
Wine or beer on a passage?
Yeah, but you don't drink it until you end the passage. And I'm serious about that. We don't do that. I don't drink anyway, but my admiral, she doesn't drink until we're done with the passage.
And why is that?
Why is that? Because I might need her. She needs to have her wherewithal. She needs to be aware. She needs to not be even just a little bit with a buzz. I don't want that. I need her in top mental and physical condition when we're out on a boat, because things happen. So, yeah, I'm very stringent about that. But you might want coconut water, sorry. You can drink coconut water. So that's my complete getting underway list. It's comprehensive. It's you might create your own unabridged version, because not all of this is applicable for everybody, or all situations, or all conditions, or all distances. So take what you need, and I hope it helps you. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.